Hey, Matt Sitter here, CEO of AFN. One of our fundamental beliefs at AFN is that change is where opportunity happens, and the best way to find opportunity in change is a network that is diverse in experience, expertise, and perspective. I am really excited. This is the first year that we've done this. We are having the Chief of Staff Impact Award, and our winner is Libby Pier. Libby's chief of staff at Education Analytics. They're a research and analysis firm focused on driving continuous improvement in education in the United States. She's got a PhD in educational psychology. She has done both the practice and theory side. She worked at Teach for America for a little while. And as we were looking at what this award meant to us, we saw that Libby had a really thoughtful and insightful approach to the chief of staff position. And she's been really effective from what we have learned about her at connecting people internally at her organization to make sure that they can be productive and communicate really well. So, Libby, congratulations. Really excited for you.
Thank you very much. I'm extremely honored.
So, maybe if you just tell us a little bit about how'd you get to the chief of staff position? What led to that spot for you, and what do you like about it?
So I always like to give the caveat when I talk about my professional journey, and bear with me because of my PhD. I'm a stats nerd, but when people are going through their professional life, they're gathering all of these different experiences. You're working at different companies in different roles, you're volunteering, you have side gigs, you have hobbies. And so you can imagine like a scatter plot of all of those different experiences. And once you gather enough of them, then you can plot the line of best fit that like summarizes the trend. And so when you ask someone, about their career journey, that's what they're telling you. They're summarizing that trend, but they don't mention all of the outliers or all of the random stuff that you tried that didn't directly end up contributing to where they are today. So it sounds very linear, but it never actually is in practice.
Right.
So, I think my journey kind of reflects that, and that I didn't graduate college wanting to be a chief of staff or knowing what that was. But I was a journalism major in college. I loved writing and loved learning new things every day. But graduated right when magazine journalism was disappearing in favor of social media. I became an English teacher through Teach for America in an effort to try and find something purposeful and mission driven to do with my skills in writing and communication. I loved that, and I loved teaching, but the financial crisis of 2008 meant that I was laid off from my teaching job. So ended up going to graduate school to pursue a PhD in educational psychology, learned I love doing research. But by the time I finished my program, realized I didn't want to be a professor. So I've had many of these stages where I'm like, I tried to do this thing and the field wasn't really supporting it, or the timing was wrong, or the market wasn't right. And I happened to find my way at Education Analytics, which I've been here for 7 years now. So I first joined on our data strategy team, and over time continued to grow and develop into other roles. So then became a research manager on our research team, and then became director of impact, where I kind of cultivated and built our capacity to do more strategic communication, branding, marketing. And really that was, I think, my first, well, I should say the research manager role was my first foray into what I think set me up for the chief of staff role, which is like need sensing and problem identification, like where are there gaps currently, and being a part of the solution, being like, we need more structure, more process in how we manage our research here, and being part of the solution. And similarly, hey, our website's really outdated. People don't know who we are. They don't know what we do or why we exist. Let's create a new function called the impact function. My principal, who's the CEO, had just transitioned to the CEO role. And within a matter of a month or two, his youngest daughter was diagnosed with leukemia. She was 3.5. And he had to step away from work. And he and I had been talking about how I thought he needed, as a CEO, a chief of staff or an admin or someone to support him as he was stepping into that role. And so he called me one night and said, I just need to be out for a while. I don't know how long. I'm not going to be available, and I need someone who can just step in and handle stuff. And because I had, we'd been working together for 5 years, and the trust was there, he asked me to kind of just
Right.
help. And that then turned into the final kind of chief of staff role that I'm in today. It's continued to grow and expand in really exciting and challenging ways. And so I think what I love about the chief of staff role is it really combines all of those different pieces of my journey. There's a lot of communication involved, a lot of teaching involved. There's a lot of research involved, like looking at different options, finding different resources that you can bring to bear to solve a problem. And it's really all about people, making connections, understanding what people need, understanding how they work together, and how you can help them work together better.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that we think the chief of staff is such an interesting role, and I don't know if you can start out aspiring to it. You kind of have to discover the things that make you be in that role.
That's right.
Um, as you're, yeah, and we really we're so passionate about the chief of staff role. We wanted to celebrate it in some way, but how do you think about what this award means for you? And just give us some of your thoughts on winning.
Yeah. So I feel like it's very humbling because, this is a community of people that I feel like have cracked the code of how to be a really effective chief of staff. And one of the like beautiful things about the chief of staff role is it's quite unique within most organizations. They're huge companies that might have lots of chiefs of staff, but in a lot of places, including mine, there's just one. And so it's hard to know, am I doing it right? Like, am I good at this
Yeah.
thing? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And so finding the AFN community has really helped reinforce, like, oh, some of these struggles are really shared, common struggles. And I have some things I've tried that seem like they could be useful to others here. And there's a lot of stuff that people here have tried that I've never even thought of or that are brand new to me and I can take and apply right away. So I really, I feel like right away I felt very embraced by the community, but this award, I think, it goes like one step further. It's not just, you're welcomed to participate, but also that difficult to get reinforcement of like you're one of us. Like you are a chief of staff, even if you don't have that internal to your organization reinforcement that you're checking the box of what that role is supposed to be, because it is so amorphous in a lot of ways.
Right. Well, and I think to your point, it is, we know it's a lonely role in terms of there's not many people who are doing the same type of things that you're doing. So it is good to be able to talk to people outside your organization that are doing something similar.
That's right.
What's one piece of advice you would give to an aspiring chief of staff, and what's one piece of advice you would give to a current chief of staff?
Yeah. So for an aspiring chief of staff, well, I will actually reverse it for I'll start with for a current chief of staff. In my experience, what makes a really good chief of staff is being excellent at problem identification and figuring out what are the highest priority pain points so that you and your principal know that the areas where you're spending your very limited time and attention are high impact ones. But I think what makes a really great chief of staff is not just identifying the gap, but actually building the bridge and solving the problem. Not just coming with, here's the problem, but coming with, these are 3 ways that we could solve it. Or I have a vision. If you say go for it, I will just make it happen. So I think, understanding that the need sensing and the problem identification is like a necessary but not sufficient condition to the role. At the risk of angering maybe the kind of your typical consultants, but like a management consultant can come in and tell you, these are the 5 things that are wrong with your organization. And then here are our kind of out of the box standard approaches for how to solve it. And people pay really good money for those kinds of services. As a chief of staff, you have the ability to do that first part, but also say, and
Right.
here's a custom solution for your organization that matches your culture, that matches your priorities and the way that things work here. For an aspiring chief of staff, I would say the advice is kind of the same in that you can leverage those skills in any sort of role. You don't have to have a chief of staff title to do that exact activity. I think that's what kind of led me in the previous roles where I said, okay, we need X. Here's how I think that we should fix it. Even when it wasn't my job. It wasn't kind of
Right.
said to me like, here's a problem we need to fix. It was like, hey, this is actually something that I want to be a squeaky wheel about and try to tell people. I think we really need to, fix this issue. And so if you want to be a chief of staff, I think developing that reputation for I pinpoint what the problem is, but I bring solutions, and not just someone should do X, but I'm going to do X, or I'm going to work with these people to implement it, and really actually following through.
Great. So you mentioned a little bit just in terms of talking about the AFN community and some of what you've interpreted around it, but can you tell us a little bit more? Just what are your thoughts on AFN's Chief of Staff office hours, and why do you think it's valuable for folks out there?
Yeah, so I think the office hours strike a very, very difficult balance of being high value and high impact, but low commitment. So it's 1 hour a week. It's at the same time each and every week. It's a small amount of time. You don't need to prepare anything. There's no like homework afterwards or, set of next steps. So it makes it very easy to fit into your already busy schedule. But it's very, very high value because, you, Matt, and John, you facilitate the meeting exceptionally well. So there's like a nugget of content that feels like I'm learning something new, or I'm, wrapping my mind around a particular concept that maybe I've thought about before, but haven't thought about it in this way before. And then, really well structured time for everybody to contribute and facilitate, but also some unstructured, back and forth opportunities. And then that opportunity at the end to really reflect and crystallize like your takeaway and what you're going to put into practice the next week. So I think in terms of like ROI, it's just, in outer space. It's a small amount of time with a high impact. And so that's very different from, I think, a lot of other like professional development opportunities. And then just, the networking piece, like you said, the chief of staff role can be a lonely one. And so having other folks that have similar skills, backgrounds, even if they're in very different industries or different size companies, that's just an important kind of nourishment of your professional soul that I think is hard to prioritize when you're in the go of the week and you're just focused on outcomes and getting stuff done. And so I don't know, it's a little bit like work therapy. It's like take an hour of your week out for yourself, like your work self, and that, pays dividends.
Great. Well, thanks, Libby. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the time that we've got?
I think I would just invite anyone who is a current or aspiring chief of staff to check out the chief of staff office hours that you all provide. I think it really is such a dynamic and special group, and I feel really privileged to have had the chance to stumble upon it and be a part of it. So thank you for
Great.
what you've provided for our community.
We are so happy to be associated with you and just like, the professionalism that you bring. And so it's really, it's a reflection of what we want people to be able to see in the chief of staff position by being able to give you this award. So thanks for the opportunity to be associated with you.
Likewise.